So in this video, I'll be demonstrating how you can set up your road Shimano cleats DIY at home without using any fancy tools. So all you need for this installation is just a 4mm Allen key, a ruler, and then preferably a torque wrench. So today I'll be demonstrating this installation with my own shoe. So when you purchase your Shimano cleat online or whether in store, it should come with 2 pairs of cleat. Now another cleat is actually mounted on my shoe already, and another one is right here. What you want to do right now is put the 3 washers on the cleat first, so like this. So once you have the washer on the cleats, then you can put in the bolts like this. And then once you have everything in place already, just very lightly screw it onto the bottom of the shoe. You can hand screw this into the shoe, or if you want to speed things up, you can actually just use your 4mm Allen key right here. Right, so you should have it mounted loosely like this. So it should be very loose so that you can make your adjustments from here. So what we're gonna set up first is actually the fore and aft adjustment of the cleat. Now we mentioned before in a previous video that the ideal fore and aft cleat adjustment is actually where the ball of your foot sits directly above the pedal axle. So on Shimano cleats, this part right here is where the pedal axle sits. So imagine my Allen key right now is the pedal axle. This is where the pedal axle sits on a Shimano road cleat. So you want to line this up with the ball of your foot. Now if you're using other road cleats like Look or something else, there should usually be an indicator or a mark here at the side of the cleat. And that mark actually indicates where the pedal axle sits. So to find this position, what you need to do right now is just to put on your shoe and then tighten it like you would usually if you were to go out and ride. So push your heel all the way to the back of the shoe. Make sure there's no room. Make sure there's no room here at the back of the shoe. And then now you want to feel where the ball of your foot sits. So you can feel this is actually the ball of the foot. So what you want to do right now is you can either take a sticker and then stick it over here, or you can use a pencil and very lightly from here draw it down to the sole of the shoe. What you want to do right now is to line up the center of the cleat with that position. Now I will say that with this fore and aft adjustment, it is always better to begin with a position that is too far back rather than too far forward. Because I mentioned before in a previous video where if you have your cleat set up too far forward, what ends up happening is that you put a lot of pressure in the toe area, and then that can cause a lot of numbness. So to play it safe, always start out with the furthest position back and then slowly move your way forward. You can never go wrong with having your cleats set up too far back. So from this position, all the way back, we're going to slowly move it forward until the ball of my foot. So right here. So you can secure it so that it doesn't move anywhere. So what we're going to set up next is actually the Q factor, or you can also call it the stance width. So with this measurement, you are able to determine how far your shoe sits from the crank, or how close does it sit to the crank. Now again, same thing with this Q factor. It is always safer to begin with a position that is wider, or also known as further away from the crank, rather than too far into the crank. So for me, I'll set it up all the way to the widest part so that both of my shoes is as far away as possible from the crank itself. Again, this is the base position and this is the safest position. If you need to, you can always adjust the cleat inwards and closer to the crank. So to do this on the right shoe, you want to push it in to the inside of the shoe. And if you're doing it on the left shoe, same thing. You want to push it here towards the inside of the shoe. Towards the inside of the shoe. So once you have found this measurement, again, tighten it a little bit more so that it wouldn't move around. So what we're going to set up next is actually the angle of the cleat. Now to determine this, we first have to take a look at our natural foot angle. So we can actually sit on some place high to actually determine this. And if you look at my foot, you can see that my right foot actually has a natural angle that is a little bit pointing out compared to my left foot. Now my left foot my left foot right here is pretty much pointing straight, so I can set up the cleat angle of my left foot to be totally straight and pointing straight. So now we're going to set up the cleat angle. So remember that my right foot is actually pointing out slightly, so we need to take into account when setting up the cleat angle. So to mimic this angle, you want to twist your cleats outwards, so towards the outside of the shoe. It actually brings the shoe in like this, so it will make your foot point outward. However, if you notice your foot angle is actually pointing in instead of pointing out, then from the base position right here, what you want to do right here is to actually twist the cleat inward, so towards the inside of the shoe. Then that will bring the angle of the shoe out, and then your toes will be pointing in. So after you have got those 3 measurements, tighten it down with an Allen key. Now if you're using a torque wrench, the recommended torque spec on usually this sort of carbon shoe is around 5 Newton meter. So I have a 5 Newton meter torque wrench right here, so I'm just going to tighten it until it snaps. 5 Newton meter, 5 Newton meter, and 5 Newton meter. So after you have set up your cleat position, you can put it on your foot and then go up for a test ride. Now one thing to take note here is this. Now you probably noticed that after you have tightened the cleats and everything, and then you clip into the pedals, you probably still notice that there is actually a bit of free play right here, as you can see. Now that is not a defect, that is actually part of the clipless pedal system design. So the blue Shimano cleat right here actually represents 2 degrees of float or 2 degrees of free play before your foot actually disengages from the pedal. There are 3 colors with a Shimano cleat. There is the blue, there is the yellow, and also there is the red. Now the yellow one has 6 degrees of free play before your foot actually disengages from the pedal. And then the red one actually offers 0 degrees of float or free play. So once your foot is clipped in, it is stuck, and then there will be no room for free play. So I hope you found value out of this video. Usually setting up your cleats is not a one-time process. Usually you have to come back a few times in order to really dial in your fit. So don't worry if the first time you set up your cleats and you feel like there's a bit of pain or a bit of discomfort in the cleats. You can always come back and then readjust the cleat position. So that is all I have to share for this video. Remember to share it with a friend and give it a like if you found value out of this video. So that is all I have to share for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.